Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jai Radha Madhav. Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Shri Radha Madhava Saki Vrinda Srimad Mahaprabhu ki, Shri Prahlad Nrsingadeva Deva ki, Shri Panchatattva ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Gurudeva ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukakaroti Vachalam Pangoram Gayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Śrī Caitanya Ishwaram. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Jayapataka Swami Niti Namine Namacharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayine Gaurakata Dhamadaya Nagara Grama Tarine Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 15. Abibhrad Aryamā daṇḍaṁ yathāvad agha-kāriṣu yāvad dadhāra śūdratvaṁ śāpād varṣa-śataṁ yamaḥ abibhrad Aryamā daṇḍaṁ yathāvad agha-kāriṣu yāvad daṇḍaṛa yāvad dadhāra śūdratvaṁ śāpād varṣa-śataṁ yamaḥ abibhrad Aryamā daṇḍaṁ yathāvad agha-kāriṣu yāvad dadhāra śūdratvaṁ śāpād varṣa-śataṁ yamaḥ abibhrad Aryamā daṇḍaṁ yathāvad agha-kāriṣu yāvad dadhāra śūdratvaṁ śāpād varṣa-śataṁ yamaḥ. Vaishnavis, abibhrad Aryamā daṇḍaṁ yathāvad agha-kāriṣu yāvad dadhāra śūdratvaṁ śāpād varṣa-śataṁ yamaḥ. Translation. As long as Vidura played the part of a Shudra, being cursed by Maṇḍūka Muni, Aryamā officiated at the post of Yamaraj to punish those who committed sinful acts. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vidura, born in the womb of a Shudra woman, was forbidden even to be a party of royal heritage along with his brothers Dhṛtarāṣṭra and Pāṇḍu. Then, how could he occupy the post of a preacher to instruct such learned kings and kshatriyas as Dhṛtarāṣṭra and Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira? The first answer is that even though it is accepted that he was a Shudra by birth, because he renounced the world for spiritual enlightenment by the authority of Ṛṣi Maitreya and was thoroughly educated by him in transcendental knowledge, he was quite competent to occupy the post of an acharya or spiritual preceptor. According to Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, anyone who is conversant in the transcendental knowledge or the science of God, be he a Brahmana or a Shudra, a householder or the sannyasi, is eligible to become a spiritual master. Even in the ordinary moral codes maintained by Cāṇakya Paṇḍita, the great politician and moralist, there is no harm in taking lessons from a person who may be by birth less than a Shudra. This is one part of the answer. The other is that Vidura was not actually a Shudra. He was to play the part of a so-called Shudra for 100 years, being cursed by Maṇḍūka Muni. He was the incarnation of Yamaraj, one of the 12 Mahajanas, on the level with such exalted personalities as Brahma, Narada, Shiva, Kapila, Bhishma, Prahlad, etc. Being a Mahajan, it is the duty of Yamaraj to preach the cult of devotion to the people of the world, as Narada, Brahma and other Mahajans do. But Yamaraj is always busy in his plutonic kingdom punishing the doers of sinful acts. Yamaraj is deputed by the Lord to a particular planet, some hundreds of thousands of miles away from the planet Earth, to take away the corrupt souls after death and convict them in accordance with their respective sinful activities. Thus, Yamaraj has very little time to take leave from his responsible office of punishing wrongdoers. There are more wrongdoers than righteous men. Therefore, Yamaraj has to do more work than other demigods, who are also authorized agents of the Supreme Lord. But he wanted to preach the glories of the Lord, and therefore, by the will of the Lord, he was cursed by Maṇḍūka Muni to come into the world in the incarnation of Vidura and work very hard as a great devotee. Such a devotee is neither a Shudra nor a Brahmana. He is transcendental to such divisions of mundane society, just as the personality of Godhead assumes his incarnation as a hog, but he is neither a hog nor a Brahma. He is above all mundane creatures. The Lord and his different authorized devotees sometimes have to play the role of many lower creatures to claim the conditioned souls. But both the Lord and his pure devotees are always in the transcendental position. When Yamaraj thus incarnated himself as Vidura, his post was officiated by Aryamā, one of the many sons of Kaśyapa and Aditi. The Adityas are sons of Aditi, and there are 12 Adityas. Aryamā is one of the 12 Adityas, and therefore it was quite possible for him to take charge of the office of Yamaraj during his 100 years' absence in the form of Vidura. The conclusion is that Vidura was never a Shudra, but was greater than the purest type of Brahmana. Translation again. As long as Vidura played the part of a Shudra, being cursed by Maṇḍūka Muni, Aryamā officiated at the post of Yamaraj to punish those who committed sinful acts. Hare Krishna, good morning. So we are in the section of Srimad Bhagavatam where, wow, there's all these descriptions of different incarnations the Lord takes, different devotees the Lord sends in order to awaken the sleeping souls. Jeev jago, Gaura chanda bole, Kota nidra jamaya, Pisachi rakole. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu came to reawaken all the dormant sleeping souls back to our original position. Jiver Swarupoy, Nitya Krishna Das. So that's the original, transcendental, eternal position of the living entity. Then why are we here? Why are we talking about curses and hell? And why is Yamaraj so busy, even though the Lord is coming again and again and again? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir-bhavati bharata abhyuttanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, he comes millennium after millennium, he comes again and again and again, never gives up on us. He comes as Matsya, he comes as Kurma, he comes as Varaha, he comes as Nrsimha. He takes the form of a fish. And in the Vishnu Sahasranam, when Bhishma Dev is lying on the bed of arrows, there's one of my favorite verses. Agrani Gramani Shriman Nyayo Neta Samiranaha Sahasramurtha Vishwatma Sahasrakshas Sahasrapat. This is specifically describing also the Matsya avatar. I mean, a fish, the Supreme Personality of Godhead coming as a fish incarnation. Just a couple of verses before this, we saw the incarnation of Matsya. So Agrani is basically the whole pastime of the Vasuki being used as a rope, and he was pulling Vivashwan Vaivashvata Muni, he was going to become the next Manu. So he saved the boat. He saved the civilization. And in this verse it said, the Lord, Agrani Gramani Shriman Nyayo Neta, he's such a best leader. A leader, the difference between a leader and a boss is that a boss just tells everybody what to do. He stands up there and tells everybody what to do. But a leader is the one who leads by example. So in this verse, it says, Nyayo Neta Samiranaha. He's always just. The Lord is always just. And just as he pulled the boat and saved the civilization, Grani Gramani Shrima Nyayo Neta Samiranaha Sahasramurtha Vishwatma Sahasrakshas Sahasrapad. So this incarnation, when he came as Matsya, he apparently, right, don't have legs, don't have hands. We usually glorify the Lord. Oh, Kamala Nayana, his beautiful eyelashes and his long arms and his beautiful lotus feet. So in the Matsya incarnation, there was apparently not the opportunity to glorify him in that way. But it says, as also in Bhagavad Gita there's a reference, although the Lord looked like he didn't have, he always has his eyes and his hands everywhere. That's the Bhagavad Gita verse. There's a Bhagavad Gita verse as well where Krishna speaks about how, and also Krishna is hearing everything all the time. So this indicates what's the relevance. It's very pertinent for our individual introspection as well. In this verse, this particular verse that I quoted about the Lord's mercy as Matsya, Agrani Gramani Shriman, Nyayo Neta Samiranaha, Sahasramurtha Vishwatma, Sahasrakshas Sahasrapad. Just as he pulled that boat, he has that ability to pull us, even though we are lost in this ocean of sharks and dolphins and all kinds of dangerous animals which are in the ocean, which is represented by our acharyas as in our subconscious mind we have desires, we have samskaras, we have so many previous life memories that we are carrying along. But because of the incarnation of Matsya, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains a lot about this incarnation and how it affects the subconscious mind, and it's very, very connected with astrology and planet Ketu. This incarnation has the potency. Again, every incarnation Krishna has a specific, he demonstrates a specific power. So in this, he has the power to cut all our previous life sinful activities, all the desires that are unnecessary for the progress, and he can, just as the water splashes when a big fish jumps into the water, this incarnation can also liberate us. So this shows us the mercy of the Lord. Just as to Satyavrata Muni, who became Vaivashvata Manu later, the Lord showed the mercy by taking an incarnation of fish. Similarly, he takes several incarnations to save us, to teach us lessons. And here, this is the ultimate lesson. When it reaches Yamaraj, it's like a hopeless case, We couldn't learn by all the incarnations, all the opportunities that we have got. We get a specific type of body, a specific type of a mind. We get specific type of skills. Connection also with the previous verse and Ketu, etc. Sometimes we see child prodigies, right? We see kids, very, very young, you must have seen on internet, very young, but they're very proficient in, say, music. Like nobody taught them that, right? And some kids, they just know ragas. There was a little Indian girl, she's sitting there, 4-year-old, and she could detect any raga. She could sing in any raga. People were just like, wow, how is this possible? It's possible because, again, this planet Ketu, for instance, in Vedic astrology, who's ruled by Matsya, carries our remnants of our memories, our subconscious patterns, our desires, and our abilities. So it comes along The soul carries it. So that's what makes child prodigies. That's why we have certain desires and samskaras. We wonder, our parents never taught us that. I didn't grow up in an environment like this. Why do I have this? Why do I have this particular propensity? Why do I have this particular inclination? Because we are carrying that. That's what we call when we say karma, right? There are so many elements of karma. But this element of karma it can help us or it can harm us. So the incarnation of the Lord comes again and again, so we can give up the unnecessary burden, the baggage that we are carrying. Now, one point I want to mention, because we're speaking about Vidura, we're talking about the curse he had for 100 years. Sometimes we have certain judgments about, oh, this devotee is very young, he's very junior, he just came, what does he know? That's one type of a normal, natural judgment we may have. Or we may say, oh, this is just a child, what do they know? Oh, this person is just a woman, what do they know? Oh, this person never lived in the temple, what does he know? So there are many, many judgments we have. But we can actually see, like in the case of great devotee like Vidura, who's an incarnation of Yamaraj, we can see that it's not what it seems. He's not a Shudra. So we can't quickly jump to conclusion saying, oh, this is a Shudra. No, we're studying in Srimad Bhagavatam what a great devotee he was. Similarly, we can also contemplate and see, are we judgmental? Like the other day somebody was mentioning about, oh, this person, oh, what is this, why is this person giving class? They're so young, what do they know? Oh, why is this, what realization can they have? But we don't know. This person may have been a great devotee in their previous life. They may have studied all the Shastras, all the Vedas, may have been a guru. Maybe you were his disciple in the previous life. We don't know. And in this life, they've come as a little child or a little young person, teenager, or woman, whatever it may be. So we do not know who we are dealing with. So therefore, the Vaishnava culture is to always be Tranadapi Sunichena, Taroreva Saishnuna. So we consider ourselves humble and insignificant because we do not know who is in front of us. What is this devotee's past? We don't know. Take, for example, Pandavas. If we met the Pandavas in the exile when they were in the forest, tree barks, wearing, not even wearing royal clothes, not even having weapons, great personalities like Bhima, great personalities like Arjuna, especially when they were in exile in Agyatavasa, when they were hiding themselves, right? It was very difficult to hide Bhima. It was very difficult to hide Arjuna's powers. And so Arjuna had to dress as a Brihannala, he dressed as a woman, and he was, woman, you know what I mean, like he dressed as a personality he's not. And we may judge them. Oh, this is just a cook. Hey, that's Bhima, Bhimasena. The Madhvas call him Bhimasena Devaru, means he's like God, because he is the perfect, how do you call it? Jivottama. They say he's the best among the jivas. So Bhima, who's Hanuma, Bhima, Madhva. Bhima is the incarnation of Hanuman, right? So when we see him in the Virata's kingdom cooking sabjis and cooking sweet rice, if we judge him as just an ordinary cook, would be such a grave mistake. He's Hanuman, and he's going to come after that. See the timing, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we never see whether it's the Lord or his devotees. It's not once. They appear as Hanuman, he appears, and then he comes as Bhima, 5,000 years ago that is, and then he comes as Madhvacharya, and he doesn't end there. 500 years ago, he came here again as Murari Gupta. Murari Gupta was Hanuman's incarnation, Bhima's incarnation, Madhvacharya's incarnation. So you see, the devotees of the Lord are always accompanying the Lord, so that we wake up, so that we're given another chance, yet another opportunity. And here we're seeing the Vidura, the same personality who is none other than Yamaraj. coming in the very most humble position. And this applies also to us. So I want to quote a story of Vidura's incarnation. His name was Kanakadasa. There are two very relevant stories that we can learn something from. In South India, Karnataka, the beach of Malpe, it's near Udupi, in Udupi. This is after the appearance of Madhvacharya and after the Krishna deity was established there. That deity is self-manifested. It's actually 5,000 years old deity. The Narad Muni gave that deity to Rukmini Devi because she had never seen childhood pastimes of Krishna. So Rukmini Devi worshipped that deity. And then at the time of inundation, as we're studying 2 verses before, there's the end of, the yuga ends. And then the deity was actually lost into the ocean. Then Madhvacharya found that deity. And then he re-established the worship of Udupi Krishna. If you go to Udupi, you will see him. Very little deity of Krishna, but very powerful. So, it is said by our Vaishnavacharyas that there was a shepherd named Kanaka. And he used to every day, back then by the way, I have to say, the whole caste system, here we're discussing Shudra, the caste system was very, very prominent. And so the Shudras were not allowed inside the temple, just like even today, Jagannath temple in Puri, foreigners are not allowed. So similarly, back then, the Shudras were not allowed to enter the temple. Nobody was allowed except the Brahmanas. So there was this Kanaka who's a shepherd, he wasn't allowed to go and have deities darshan. And so he used to come, and there is a little hole or like a window which he used to come and watch. He used to try to get the glimpse of the deity. And people would get very annoyed by him. Oh, this Shudra is coming, they were considered as dirty. So it was like, why is this person coming here and trying to have darshan? He is contaminating our purity of bhakti. So they tried to stop him. And one day they actually tied him up and started beating him. Because his determination to want to serve the Lord, to want to see the Lord was so strong, he was not getting defeated by it. So when they were actually beating him up, that deity cracked the wall. The wall just cracked and broke open for everybody to see that human rules and regulations and all these caste system is not what the Lord wants. So when the wall cracked open, and even today, that place, they made a little window, and it's called Kanakana Kindi. It means a little window of Kanaka. So you can actually see the deity through that. Some versions also said that the deity actually turned around. But our Vaishnavacharyas say the deity didn't turn around, but that it moved and the wall broke. Because there's some explanations about it. Why it couldn't have been possible the deity turned around. But the deity gave darshan to Kanaka to prove the same point that we are discussing here. Being a Mahajan, this is the second point I want to mention, but here. So even in the ordinary moral codes, there is no harm in taking lessons from a person who may be by birth less than a Shudra. This is another point. Even if there are certain considerations, somebody must be a Brahmana to do certain kind of worship, or somebody must be of a certain qualification externally to enter the temple, etc. Still, a diamond, even if it is in the garbage, we must learn to discriminate and take it. Even Srila Prabhupada, for instance, there was a doctor who was very materialistic, very mundane, but he told Srila Prabhupada, you should take walks, you should walk. And the doctor was not so useful in any other regard, but Srila Prabhupada took that advice and he walked every single day. So this is, we can learn from our acharyas that we should take good advice no matter where it comes from. Excuse me. So here we are reading about how Yamaraj has very little time because he has more work to do, more than the demigods, who are also authorized agents of the Supreme Lord. But he wants to preach the glories of the Lord. And so sometimes the curse may actually appear like a blessing. We may also have certain karma, certain debts, certain obligations, certain responsibilities, certain relationships, which may not seem like all pleasant thing. But if we can actually take that as an opportunity. For example, I'll give one example that is very relevant. In this case, Vidura was born as a lesser class individual. So sometimes it can happen that we may be born into a family where we may not have had much privileges, or maybe our parents were dysfunctional. Let's take the example of parents not being supportive or functional. It can actually be a great opportunity. We are more free to become devotees, especially like say in Indian families. If parents are too protective, too nice, too happy family, we may not have been attracted to come and join ISKCON, right? But when the parents are not so supportive and they may not be so functional on a overall whole level, we become enthused to go towards what is the best thing for us. So there are many situations in our life we may think, oh, I wish I had better parents. I wish I had better family. But these are like a springboard for us to make advancement in a quicker way. So that's something I thought when I read this story. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so these are some of the points that we must be very careful and discriminating, and we must take good advice coming from anywhere. And the main point Srila Prabhupada is making here is giving Krishna consciousness. See, sometimes we're so lost in our own troubles and our own minds playing games with us, but the best way, the best remedy is to give Krishna consciousness to others. When we are engaged in sharing Krishna consciousness, I'm a little cautious to say the word preach, because sometimes we may scare people off. Sometimes preaching is the thing that stands between Krishna and a new person. So all we must do is get out of the way. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is flowing, and all we need to do is sometimes just stand out of the way so the mercy is reaching. So sharing Krishna consciousness is a different skill, which comes from vulnerability. In my experience, whenever I've tried to make friends with people and share with them my struggles as a spiritualist and express to them how this particular system worked for me, Maha Mantra helped me, studying Bhagavad Gita helped me, but coming from a place of vulnerability, they took it up more. But when we tell them, this is the only way, everything else is nonsense, intelligent people look at us like, it seems like you're not convinced yourself, you're trying to convince yourself. So I see a lot of progress in this regard in our Hare Krishna movement. A lot of devotees, a lot of projects are coming up where we facilitate, like I said, we get out of the way between Krishna, between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message and the new person who's waiting for Krishna to come and enter their hearts. So this is a service we could do, to not put our ego in the center, to not make it about us, but to allow that to happen organically. This is also another lesson we can learn from great personalities like Vidura. There's a whole Vidura Niti, there's a whole book about Vidura teaching us wisdom. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Wisdom is when we know how to discriminate. Again, when we are sharing Krishna consciousness with somebody, we must share the experience we have had and not just tell them something that we haven't experienced and make them feel that this is the only religion that's good for you, because it will have a reverse effect. It may backfire. So these are some points. If you have any comments or questions in this verse, or I can repeat it. Thank you. Prabhuji, your name? J.K. Das Prabhu. Thank you for your question. So the question is, can you elaborate more on this point of sharing Krishna consciousness versus preaching, and how we can share our experiences and inspire people? Thank you. Actually, there was this sentence I want to find. Where is this in the purport? Okay, anyway, so I don't know which sentence I was just thinking, but basic Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says anything can be done in Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. It's the same thing. Preaching Krishna consciousness can be done in Sattva Guna, Rajoguna or Tamoguna. In Tamoguna, it's all about, all or nothing. This is what it is. Every other religion is nonsense. This is the only way to reach God. This is the only way to connect with God. And if you do anything else, you're damned, you're condemned, you're going to go to hell. Right? Sometimes we even do that amongst ourselves, in the devotee community. Somebody is having a struggle. Somebody is struggling to climb the ladder of sadhana bhakti. And instead of pushing them to go forward, we may actually pull them down by saying, oh, you're initiated and you're not able to do that. You're doing offenses, you will never advance. Or, we may actually hamper the enthusiasm of a person, which is tamas, destruction. Tamoguna is ignorance, not understanding the consequence of what we are doing. And then in Rajoguna, which is in the mode of passion, again, we think, me. This is the best religion because I'm following it. You see, it becomes about us. It's not so much about Krishna. We put ourselves in the center. And then we are very energetic, we do a lot, we build a lot of bridges, but then we burn them, or we don't let people cross it because of our ego. In the mode of passion, it becomes so much about I-centric that we are not considering the needs of the other person. What's the experience of the other person? I'll give you one example, okay? I come from South India. And usually, normally, if the person is fortunate, people come from stable families, joint family. I came from a joint family, etc. So sometimes we may have an experience of father protecting us, mother protecting us, having a support system, having a sense of belonging in the bigger families. You have relatives, and if you're fortunate, you may have good relatives who are devotional. They tell you to study, like my uncles and my aunts and my grandfather, they taught me Vishnu Sahasranam, they taught me Bhagavad Gita shlokas. Okay, if we're fortunate, we kind of grow up in that situation. And then we may come, say, to the West or to Mayapur, and then we may meet devotees from different parts of the world. And we may come from a certain system of women should be protected, or you should be protected in this environment, this is what you should do. And based on our experience, we tell others to do the same. So that's in the mode of passion, to think that my experience is everything. Wearing the lens of, I did it, why can't you do it? I can get up in the morning, what is your problem? I also have health issues, what is your problem? See, so that's like in the mode of passion. To think that if some people like to work very hard physically, they run around outside in the sun, they go up and down, they travel, etc. And they may look at others who are not doing that and criticize. What is this person sitting all day chanting 32 rounds? What's the point? Prabhupada said you should go and do this. By the way, this is very important. Mode of passion and Prabhupada's instruction. In the mode of passion, Srila Prabhupada's instructions becomes like a snowball fight. Some places, like for example, Srila Prabhupada said to one devotee, teaching is the best service you can do. Okay, and people started wondering, oh really? And then if you go and actually look more for Srila Prabhupada's instructions, he said that for every service. He said that about cow protection, he said that about book distribution, he said that about every service. So sometimes Rajoguna, it becomes all about whatever I see is right, whatever I think I'm good at, I think that whoever is not doing that, they are less than me. Okay, so if we preach in the mode of passion, we may make connections easily, but we may not be able to maintain it. We may distribute a lot of books, we may build big temples, but nobody's reading those books, you're not creating programs to read the books. People don't come to the temple, temples are empty. See what I'm saying? Or even if people do come, it becomes very much about, passion, in the mode of passion, preaching can become, do this, okay, get your 16 rounds done, and then initiation becomes like a political thing. You're disciples of this guru, and this guru is better than the other guru, because he's my guru, right? Because I'm following him, he's better, he has to be better, right? Then the whole thing becomes, we create that culture, and then people who follow us also learn the same thing. So it's very important how we start giving Krishna consciousness out. Like one of our friends, he used to distribute books, and he used to make life members. And the life members this devotee made were very different from other life members. Most of the life members would come and, entitlement. Hey, where is my free room? Where is my AC room? Where are my things? Where is my yearly gifts? People came with that mood, because maybe those who made them life members gave them certain promises which was in the mode of passion. So these people were attracted in the mode of passion, and they would come there in the mode of passion, ask for things. And this other friend of ours who made devotees or made life members in Sattva Gun, these people didn't even know that you can get free rooms if you go to ISKCON temple. They never had that sense of entitlement, because they were high class people, cultured, and these people were just told, you're doing a service for this organization. So when we are ourselves in the mode of passion, we attract people in the mode of passion. But if we are in the mode of rajas, we may also attract people who are in the rajas. So basic philosophy, in the mode of tamas, we feel bitter, we are angry, we are irritated, we are frustrated because my desires were not fulfilled. When I was young, nobody let me enjoy, so when I see other people enjoying, I can't tolerate it. So I go and hamper them. This is misery in the beginning, misery in the end. Right? Tamas. Krishna is clearly stating that. And in the mode of rajas, it sounds all cool in the beginning. I distributed so many books, I built 2 temples or whatever, right? We come up with, I did this, I did that, do. Doing, did, done. It's all about action. And tamas is all about having, like whatever it is that you have. Tamas is tangible things as well. And rajas is action-based things. And in the mode of sattva, it's about being. If I'm being a good devotee, people feel it. If I'm just talking, people feel it. People will see it. So in the mode of sattva, we are honest. We are real. And when we say sincerity, humility, it basically means, you know what, I have been chanting for all this time, but when I read all the glories of it, I'm not experiencing it completely, but there are some glimpses I've had, and you seem like a spiritual person. We can study Bhagavad Gita together. Let's explore it together. You can help me, I can help you. So, when you respect people, they behave in respectable ways. And they say, this is one thing that's helped me a lot in preaching Krishna consciousness. When we show our strengths in preaching, when we share all the great things we know, I know verses, I know this, I know that, people are impressed, okay? But when we are vulnerable, when we are honest, people trust us. So impressing people may not really bring them closer to Krishna. They're impressed. But if we can win their trust by being real, by being open, well, these are the challenges I've had in my life. I also have problems in my family. I also have problems with my parents. I also didn't behave very well with my parents. This is what I learned. I'm just giving an example. It could be based on our experience. And then on another level, 2-3 years ago when I was going through a phase of life, I said, no, I shouldn't be giving classes. I have no qualification whatsoever. Then one of my mentors was telling me, you share from your point of realization. When you read a purport and you feel like, wow, this is so amazing, I'm not there. And then you start saying, we're not there, and therefore how do I get there? then you share that with others. So, because initially, when I used to share Krishna consciousness from a point of, standing on the pedestal, sitting there and saying, we should do that, we should do this is what Prabhupada has said, and this is the thing, otherwise we're going to go to hell, that sort of a thing, again, is in the mode of passion. I could not maintain it myself. There had to come a point, look inside and say, I'm going on saying that, but am I doing it? And then I said, I'm not. So why am I not doing it? Oh, maybe I have to go deeper. Oh, maybe I have to do susukham kartum avyayam. Maybe I have to perform devotional service in a more favorable way. So in the mode of sattva, we are considerate. What is this person's background? Where do they come from? Now, I say a lady from New York, she studied law. She's had so many relationships, experience with alcohol, whatever, everything. The first thing, we don't start telling her, this is how women should behave, you should go in the kitchen and start rolling chapatis, right? We're going to lose her. So the point is, we have to see what is the experience of people, where they stand, how can we encourage them to become more close to Krishna? How can we help them to take shelter of Krishna? So we need to be patient. We need sattvic qualities of patience, compassion, considerateness, honesty, and then we'll be able to help others. And one thing that's really important, and I've observed a lot also in my professional life, people who are very heavy in certain kind of preaching, it's because they themselves have too many struggles and they're not kind to themselves. And then they find it hard to be kind to others. So sometimes maybe the first thing we need to do in order to be effective in our preaching is be kind to ourselves. Because when we are kind to ourselves, we do the best for ourselves. Kind doesn't mean eat junk food or anything like that. If I'm really kind and considerate to myself, I'll make sure I'll have the best healthy food, right? If I'm kind, in the sattva guna level. So if I'm kind to myself, I'll be able to be kind to others. So I think preaching begins at home. And how I'm being with myself. What am I telling myself if I couldn't chant my rounds before Bhagavatam class? I'll say, well, next time I shouldn't, but what am I telling myself? Or if I say I couldn't do my deity worship as I wanted to do. So what kind of self-talk do I have? Usually that reflects what kind of talk we have with our family. If our family members are struggling, are we being heavy and harsh? Usually we do what we do with ourselves, we do with others. And then we do the same in preaching field as well. So we have to be sattvic with ourselves, with our family, with others. It kind of is like a ripple effect. Does it make sense? Anything else? Yes, Prabhu.
You're talking about the discrimination in temples. It seems like today the one place that you're going to find that is Jagannath Puri.
Sorry, can you please...
The one place you'll find that kind of discrimination still going on.
What kind of discrimination specifically?
Well, like only foreigners.
Okay.
Only Brahmins. Well, now it's only only Indians.
Racial, yeah.
You have to prove you're born in India to get into the Jagannath temple. And is that, they seem like pretty serious people about Vedic principles. Is that based on Vedic principles, that discrimination, like you said, that only the Brahmins can come in, or only the Indians can go in, or is that made up on some other basis? Where do they get that idea?
I mean, the specific temple we're talking about?
Jagannath temple.
Yeah, the specific temple we're talking about is a mixed, the reasons are mixed. There's some prediction that they're afraid of, that the foreigners will come and take away Jagannath. So they're very scared to allow white-skinned people inside. I think the general rule is also Muslims are not allowed, something like that. But how would you see that, right? So many people may be Muslim faith, right? They look normal like Indians. So it's based on a sentiment, and it's based on some sort of insecurity, probably. But Vedic again, see, there are many, it's a very tricky word, Vedic is a very tricky word. We cannot transpose certain Vedic rules that were applicable back ages ago and try to put it here and say, okay, these people are not allowed in the temple because it's Vedic. Okay, it's dangerous to kind of put that into the box of Vedic. And in this case, it's something to just, we are speaking about that temple, but there are many temples, even in ISKCON, there may be certain, subtle discriminations going on. So it's a human conditioning, it's a human nature. We are seeing, even in the world currently today, there's so much racial discrimination going on. There is a lot of instability when it comes to acceptance of humans as we are. So it's a very, on the physical level, okay, this color of the skin, color of the skin, what is it? It's, if you're speaking about, we're not even this body, right? We're not even this body. So what does the color of the skin have to do? Anything. I'm going to tell you something you may be surprised or you may not know. Something very silly, Indians, we know this. In India, a lot of people, when they want to get married, one of the things they write I have seen it in the matrimonial bureau. One of the things they want, say especially a man and a girl, they want white skin, fair skin. Indians, we're not fair skin, we're not white skin. But they write it there. So the fair skin is something they consider as a symbol of beauty. And in India, the Indian market is flooded with fairness creams. Right? People, when I went to West, I saw people bronzing their skin and everybody wanted my skin color. Right? And we grew up in India with fairness creams. All the actors and sports stars, have become fair. That's the symbol of beauty, right? We Indians are laughing at it. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, we realize, forget about skin color, I'm not even this body. Okay, talk about discrimination here. I'm talking about devotee men, initiated men, putting in the list of what they want in a girl, they want fair skin. That really, I wasn't connected with that sort of Indian thing earlier. This is just, I'm speaking about it recently. So there's so many levels of discrimination and misunderstanding and ignorance we are, cast upon in this world. So, yeah, I wouldn't be so surprised that the temple of Jagannath Mandir haven't yet gone over their insecurity about skin being fair, and they have I heard something about the prediction which they are cautious to not let people maybe steal Jagannath. So it's a sentiment, it's a sentiment. They want to protect Jagannath. So it's a sentiment. But you can see Patita Pavan from outside. And some foreign devotees have made it inside as well in very interesting ways. So Yoga Maya is very tricky. Yoga Maya makes, covers the minds.
Dr. Tirtha Swami got in there.
Yes, he did. Yes, Prabhu. Isn't that amazing? Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj get in there. And
Hare Krishna Mataji. On this point, I just wanted to add some small comment. So, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they were working with the Nawab. So, even though they took shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and became or showed pure Vaishnava qualities, still they did not want to go inside the Jagannath temple. And we have the example of Haridas Thakur as well. So, it's like fighting our way in is actually not a good mood also, because we can get the mercy of Jagannath in so many ways, and by actually trying to attain pure devotional service, Jagannath will come to you. And we have so many Vaishnavas who are not in Indian bodies, and they have attained the mercy of Lord Jagannath. They didn't push their way in. So I just wanted to speak the other side of the story as well.
Thank you. That's a good point. That reminds me that first of all, Jagannath Mandir should also put a sign, don't use fairness creams, you may not be allowed next time. It's a joke. But something else I thought was, actually this example of any temple or any individual sometimes have certain value system and we may feel blocked out of it. It can happen even with families or temples, Sometimes some people don't want certain kind of preachers in some places. There are all these things. But I think Bhagavatam does say that we must discriminate, in the sense we look at them and see, they have this particular value, this principle they want to apply. Is it really shastric? Not really. So what does Bhagavatam say? Gunadamat anukroshan, gunadikan mudam lipset. If we see somebody who is not really following spiritual guidelines, we don't condemn them. We show compassion. Guna dhamat. If somebody has any quality which is less than our understanding or less than us in the mode of goodness, what we do? We feel compassion. We feel compassion that they have this value which may not be according to us very high. And then gunadikan mudam lipset. This is actually also Mahabharat. This is a principle. Okay, I'll come to Mahabharat shortly. Gunadikan mudam lipset. Sometimes people have something more valuable than us. For example, this Jagannath Mandir people, they have access to Jagannath and the temple, and we don't have. Like, we don't have authority over it. It's an area of concern, but it's not an area of influence for us. Okay? And this is something, according to Mahabharat, there are different levels of strength or power. It's not only money, it's not only spiritual potency. Sometimes having a social, political influence is also something they have and we don't have. So what does Bhagavatam say? Gunadikan mudam lipset. We feel happy that they have that. But if we see something less, we feel compassion. So I thought this is very applicable in preaching as well. We may see somebody very rich, right? And they may not have much spiritual knowledge. They may not have peace of mind. They're very rich. So we don't just say, all their riches is useless. We don't say that. That's in the mode of passion and ignorance. Rather, we value that. Lakshmi Devi has blessed them. Krishna has given them wealth. But they're not so wealthy in intellect. They're not wealthy in knowledge. Right? So we discriminate. Bhagavatam does say we should discriminate, but in that discrimination we have to apply Shuddha Sattva or Sattva. We have to apply spiritual principles, or we have to apply goodness in the situation and not be in the mode of passion or ignorance. Ignorance will be to condemn them and say, why they're doing this nonsense, they're so wrong, or whatever. And passion would be like, again, like Prabhu was saying, in the mode of goodness we don't too much fight. We're just like, okay, Krishna allowed that to happen. I mean, if Pandavas wanted to fight, if Vidura wanted to fight, they had all the spiritual potency too. But the point is, they accepted that curse. So we can say, we are kind of cursed that Jagannath, we can't go inside the temple and see. That's okay. If Pandavas accepted the curse, if Vidura accepted the curse, this is a little curse, in this Kali Yuga for us. But we can learn and we can show compassion and we can pray. That's something I thought is applicable for preaching as well. Somebody may challenge and offend ISKCON. There are even some of my relatives offend ISKCON. So one of the things I do is feel compassion for them, because they are already messed up. So pray for them that may they not mess up more. Instead of becoming angry, getting into a fight, breaking the relation, in turn you smile externally and pray for them. Right? What can you do? That is strength. Strength means not just something that we forcefully do, right? Strength is something we do easily. So we smile. Why? We think of Bhagavatam principle. We think of Pandavas. We think of Vidura. So when we are treated in an unjust way, we think of these personalities. Krishna consciousness is an internal state of mind. Superiority is not externally. If we're given crowns and thrones, that's not pleasing to Krishna. But internally, if we can accept it. So that's a very good point to consider. Does that make sense? Thank you. So Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Vidura Mahashaya ki, Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you so much for your attention. Hare Krishna.